Shalom, Rastafari, Salaam alaikum, and peace to the kings and the queens of the earth. How's everybody doing today? I want to give a shout out to everybody on this Wednesday. It has been a long week, up and down with the weather. I'm all over. It's hot, cold, hot, cold. But I want everyone to know, just keep on pushing forward. We're almost through and into the middle of summer. And things are, summertime brings out sunshine. Sometimes brings out good things and good vibes, right? So keep it up, keep pushing, and know that blessings are coming your way. Today I wanted to give and talk about, and first of all, give my flowers and give a good talk and podcast about a special man who has become a councilman in the beautiful city of Harlem. And this man by the name of Dr. Yuseef Salaam. Dr. Yuseef Salaam. And let me tell you who this person is. If you don't know who that name is, you should look him up. He started off, he was one of the five, people or men who were charged with the notorious 1989 Central Park rape jogger case. Now, this was a case where a jogger, white female jogger, was jogging through Central Park and apparently was raped she said she was raped by five men, black men, who weren't even there. And she was also murdered as well. So they actually spent between 6 and 13 years in prison. And then in 2002, the real person came out and actually admitted to the crime. So they were exonerated. They were paid $40.75 million, but that's not enough considering they were in jail and their lives ruined, especially at that time. Donald Trump put out a full-page article in the New York, basically telling they should be put in jail. They should put the death penalty. These are thugs. These are animals. Just basically talking about them. And then during this case, though, the DNA had already exonerated these guys. The DNA didn't even match them. And they did the DNA testing. It didn't even match them. So... and to this day, Donald Trump hasn't apologized and never will. But anyway, one of those five men was able to take his tragedy and continue his work in the community. And now he is a city councilman and will be one of the next big councilmen in the city of Harlem. And I am just so happy to see this story of redemption. It is a story of when you're caught in the wrong situation, you were accused wrongfully of things, how these things can ruin someone's life. But as you continue to push forward, knowing your heart, knowing you're innocent, and putting God first, look what can happen. And like I said, this is something that we can all learn from. One, we can take a look back at the racial component of this situation. We can start with that, how just five black men were accused and thrown in jail and convicted without knowing DNA evidence. And while the DNA evidence started coming up, they still kept them behind bars and then had to admit it almost 10, 15 years later. This 1989 component was in New York City. So you know for a fact that five black men, they're just going to throw them in jail like they used to. And just who cares, throw away the key. And if they, most men who are innocent behind bars don't have the resources to fight back. So they end up just taking the charge and that's their life. And they just feel like they just got dealt a bad card. Excuse me. So most of these men have exonerated themselves and come back and done plenty of good work. But he has, since this situation, has been an abolitionist when it comes to jail. And making sure that criminals are treated fairly. Why wouldn't you? In this situation, I mean, how could you sit there and not do this when, literally you've lived through it? And personally, I take this story as also as the Most High, the Creator, Allah, God. He'll put stories and he'll put examples in front of you. And it's up to you to learn from them, to take from them, or just to not. When you see some people who are just oblivious to life, they're not really learning much lessons. They're not really building anything in their head, right? I'm serious. When people just they walk in life, they don't want to do anything. They don't want to be a part of anything. They have no passion. I get that. But then you're not in turn able to learn the life school. And this is a life school situation. I have been talked about horribly. I have been reamed on private websites for no reason, complete lies. I have been accused fully. And I've also been pretty much exonerated, like completely, not even exonerated. Exonerated is not the proper vocabulary, but I was proven even in the highest courts to be completely like this is ridiculous, actually. And then I didn't have enough money to come back and then sue people civilly because I'm the one that had to do with all this stuff, and I was left broke. And then I'd had nothing to try to go back and say, all right, now it's time for me to give mine. I had to make a choice and say, God, I appreciate you, thank you, and know that there's some things that are greater, and I need to move forward and let you handle the battle. Now, I'm not saying you do that because there's times where this isn't right. You throw in jail for 7 years, you damn right, and for no reason. And the DNA evidence, and they've been screaming how innocent these guys were from the beginning. They got a coursed confession, and by some guys who were probably so intimidated they didn't want. And again, they had to wait till 2002 when they were released and free and talking about what's going on. It was like they went to jail and all of a sudden the evidence came in. The thing about it is when people do a drastic thing like this and they throw you in jail, the laws don't want to be wrong. Because once they admit that they're wrong, then all of a sudden it becomes a civil situation. So they didn't want to do that. And they wanted to push, and finally they had to just let it go. And then finally in 2002, you had to end up paying some people. And that wasn't enough money. Not even close. You had 7 years taken away from you in a prison. You were looked at horribly. You had to get exonerated because if you just would have took the charge, it would have been on your record and you wouldn't be able to do anything. It was a felony. So you wouldn't be able to vote. You wouldn't be able to do anything. You wouldn't be able to barely have a job. And they had to get exonerated because to get that situation corrected. And to see Dr. Yuseef step up, continue his fight, and then literally get the councilman in Harlem to step up and put him in that forefront. That's a victory. That's Black people. That's good people stepping up to the plate and understanding who this person is and giving him a chance to right the wrongs of other people, not what he did. All right, this isn't some kind of redemption story of a person who made a mistake and da-da-da-da. No, you were falsely accused, and now to fight back and to get to the point where you were first an abolitionist and now you are a councilman that can possibly, keep this thing going. Who knows where you can go? Next, you might be the governor of New York, and then the sky's the limit. So I am very, very happy to see the people, because I'm 41 years old. I do remember this case. I was about 9. And I remember hearing something about Central Park and this craziness and da-da-da, and then hearing then not hearing about it. But it was so funny how the 89 came, and then all of a sudden the 90s was a really opening situation as far as Black culture, Black racism. We know there was it was almost like the 60s coming back again. You understand? You had the 91 situation. You had the female getting shot by the Chinese lady for thinking that she stole orange juice, killed her. I think she was 11 years old, killed her right in front, and then got off. You had Rodney King, them getting off, and you had O.J. Simpson getting off. So you had the 90s was crazy. You know what I mean? And people don't understand. In the early 90s, some of y'all weren't even born listening to me, but some of y'all maybe been in Canada or whatever. The 90s was crazy. And in 2002, they had to get exonerated for all these things. This is probably after the 90s was a battle. The 90s was really exposing another racial component of how this country really was. The 90s was a tough time. I'm telling you that right now. Again, I went to my high school, Winsville South. There was Confederate flags all over the place when I walked into that school. I'm in Buffalo, New York, you understand? So it has been one of those situations where to see the plane and to see how this country makeup has gone, it does not surprise me that people like him have now kept up the fight and now have been put to the forefront of leadership, because I think people now are starting to understand what was done to us was very wrong. These cases happen all over the country, and there needs to be people like Dr. Yuseef who need to be abolitionists to continue to fight for wrongful convictions that can ruin people's lives. And again, there's people who don't have the money to fight back. That's the thing. So there's abolitionists that will literally hear their case and maybe fight for it for free. And I give a big salute, and I'm going to keep my eye on it more for him. And I literally love the story. I love it. A person who's took something that was tragic, a life-altering situation, could have died, could have just given up. I mean, 7 years in prison for nothing you didn't do. I mean, you could have just hung yourself and said, fuck life. You could have accepted it. You could have not fought back. You could have just took your years and went somewhere and knew it was bad. Or you could have even took your $40 million and retired off that money and went somewhere and said, fuck the world, right? But instead you fought back and you made sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else, or tried to make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else. And I salute that 150%. Much love to y'all. Thank y'all for listening. Have a good day.